Would you like to say hello? Say hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone. Welcome to or back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Sammy and I like to yap about books. Now, this is going to be the last video for 2025, so I thought I'd do a reading wrap up for the year. So somehow this year I have managed to read 86 books. Now, at the start of the year, I wasn't tracking my reading, the Book Girls Corner didn't exist, and then in March everything changed. We started the Book Girls Corner on Instagram, and then I started tracking my reading audiobooks, and yeah, it's just spiraled from there. So what I thought I'd do is I'd go through each month and give you just a breakdown of my favourite reads and sometimes my most disappointing reads of the month, depending on the month. So here we go, let's jump into it. So I have made notes, so excuse me if you just see me staring over this way because there's no way I would remember all of these books back to January. Can't remember what I had for dinner last week. So in January I noted down that Dandadan, I read the anime of that, started reading it anyway. I think I read the first 3 in January and I really enjoyed those. And 6 of Crows, which my sister recommended to me. I enjoyed them. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. I think I know there's a big fan base and it gets a lot of good reviews, but for me it just didn't quite hit the mark. I think this year fantasy's been quite difficult for me. I've not enjoyed it as much as I usually have, with the one exception of being J.F. John's Kingdom of the Gods series. Yeah, so for me that was kind of the start of me losing love with the fantasy series this year, unfortunately, and I have turned to more thriller and horror books as we close this year out, but I'm loving the genre. Okay, so in February I only read one book, which was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Now I love this series. I actually didn't enjoy this one as much as I thought I was going to, and I was really shocked by that. The ending was one of those that just hook you in though, and I need the next book to find out what happens. But yeah, I didn't struggle with it. It just wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be. I had really high hopes for this book because the whole series, I mean, Fourth Wing was amazing. But yeah, this one, not as good. I'm still going to want to read the next one, and please, Rebecca, I know you're probably never going to watch this, but we need that book now, so yeah. So in March I read a few more books. The only one that I've written down for my list though for the wrap up is the Crimson Moth Duology. Now I really enjoyed this set of books. I thought it was a really interesting take on the witch story and really interesting how their magic worked. It was totally different to anything else I'd read previously, and I am a sucker for a witch story, so yeah, I would thoroughly recommend this one. It's kind of like a witchy, romantic-y kind of duology, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really would recommend these ones. So in April, I read a trilogy of books, and they're all singular stories, but the characters interlink throughout. And it's That Time I Got Drunk and series. Now, these were kind of recommended to me as like a funny D&D take on a romantasy story. So each book, like I said, follows a different female character, and they end up going on a quest with a male who turns out to be their love. These books are really funny. They're really easy to read. They're quite short, so if you want something short and to the point and a bit spicy as well, I loved these. I thought they were really funny, really different, and just such a nice light read. Apart from everything else I feel like sometimes fantasy genre can be a bit heavy. These ones, not heavy at all. They take the mick out of everything. Everything is like a funny play on words. And yeah, just really, really good series. I thoroughly recommend. I also read a book called Cul-De-Sac in April. Now this was a really interesting take on a thriller story. So we follow each character in a cul-de-sac, and each couple have their secrets, their lies, their problems, and one day one of the neighbours gets murdered, and we basically follow the fallout from this murder, and we follow it through the eyes of two new neighbours who come into the fold, and everything is so twisted and nobody is who they perceive themselves to be or show themselves to be to everybody else, and there's a lot going on behind closed doors, which I loved this. I thought it was really clever and so interesting. I thought it was going to be a bit busy because each character has their own POV chapters, but actually it really works, and she hooks you in by leaving you on a cliffhanger for one, and then we won't pick back up until like 4 chapters later. But yeah, really clever, really enjoyed it, and it's very twisty, especially the end. May was when I got my copy of A Kingdom of Shadow and Ash by J.F. Johns, and I'm not going to go too much into this because I've said a lot about it in other videos, but this series is just brilliant, and I think it's actually my favourite fantasy series of the year. So yeah, so I'm not going to say any more because, like I said, I have said quite a bit in other videos about it. Now in May, I also started my first Freida McFadden book, The Housemaid, and I'm so excited that it's been turned into a movie. I can't wait to go and watch it. Now this book follows a young woman who is homeless, and she gets a job as a housemaid for quite a well-off family, but things aren't as they seem in the house, and things start to go wrong and twist really, really quickly. I'm not going to say too much because obviously the film's coming out, so you'll probably see that anyway, but so good, and it got me on my Freida McFadden train. And if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I love me a Freida McFadden. So in June, I carried on with the Housemaid series, books 2 and 3, and the little novella as well. But the one that I want to mention is actually another fantasy book, Sheild of Sparrows. I really enjoyed this, and I've read quite a lot of mixed reviews. It's basically a princess gets married off to a prince to unite their kingdoms, but all is not as it seems. I don't want to give too much away, but I really enjoyed this. I loved the world building and the monsters that are in it, and I actually really enjoyed the romantic side of this as well. I think the next book comes out, I want to say next year. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens because, again, it ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, so I'm hooked, and yeah, I need the next book now. So in July, I got to read A Kingdom of Sand and Ice, which is book 2 in Kingdom of Gods series by J.F. Johns. Again, not going to go into it too much. Absolutely loved it. Brilliant, brilliant series. And then I fell trap to the hype and the buzz for a book called Butter. Now, Butter was probably one of the biggest disappointments for me this year. I really kind of fell for the hype of the book. It was presented like a thriller, like a female reporter gets into the mind of a female serial killer, and unfortunately it was just lost on me completely because the whole book was focused on how women are perceived in that society and in that culture, and I get it, but this was quite a chunky book. And I felt like it could have easily been half the size that it was and still kind of put the point across. I really struggled with this one. It took me a long time to read this. And every time I started reading it, I was just like, can we just get to the point? Because I am starting to get a bit bored. So yeah, unfortunately, it was just not for me. I was so disappointed. Looking back at my reading tracker, August is kind of where I completely go into my horror thriller kind of era, I guess you could say. So one of my favourite books I read in August was Heads Will Roll. Now I listened to this on audio and it was so creepy, but I absolutely loved it. So in Heads Will Roll, we follow a young lady who goes to it's like a summer camp but for adults, and it's like a complete digital detox. And she gets there and she realises that there is a legend that goes around camp, but there's something kind of true to the legend, and there is something out to get the campers. And yeah, not everyone's a happy camper, and this was really, really creepy, and it had me on edge for quite some time. I also loved in this one how the main character had like it was very well done in the audiobook. It was like a second kind of little voice in her head, and as she developed and kind of got past her problems, why she kind of went into this camp and why she had to detach herself from society, this voice kind of diminishes and you kind of realise what this voice really was. And yeah, I found that kind of psychological side of it really interesting. But yeah, the horror in this, so creepy. And yeah, I think this would make an absolutely great film as well. So fingers crossed it get picked up one day. So another one of the great books that I read in this month was Your Favourite Scary Movie, and this is a book all about the Scream films. Now I only recently got into the Scream films and I absolutely love them, and this was basically like a backstage pass into all of the gossip and the history behind it and what the Scream films did for the horror genre. I loved this. So I listened to this first of all and totally geeked out because the voice of Ghostface actually narrates the book. And then I decided to get a physical copy. I'm so glad I did, because there are some really cool behind the scenes pictures of the cast and shooting, and yeah, it's such a good book. If you are a Scream fan in any kind of sense, even if you just like the films, I thoroughly recommend that you get this book because it really gives you that insider kind of look. And Scream 7 comes out next year, so it's a good time to go and read it. So in September, I carried on with the horror genre. I read an arc for They Fear Not Men in the Woods. Now this was oh so creepy. In this book we follow a girl who is trying to find her father who has gone missing in the woods, and his death wasn't really properly looked into. Now there is like a environmental nature side to this story and a kind of folklore-esque storyline to it as well, and they actually merge really well, and I really enjoyed this. The creepiness of the woods was so well done. It's just so creepy, and the way things start to happen, it just makes you think I'm going mad. And yeah, it really puts you in the shoes of the characters, which I really enjoyed. And I would love a copy of this for my shelves as well because the cover is absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, I definitely recommend this one as well. Another really good ARC book that I read in September is Mischief Night. Now in this book we follow a woman who is escaping her abusive relationship, and she basically puts her child in the car and leaves her husband, and they go and they stay with her brother. but she doesn't know. She's basically jumping out of a frying pan and into a fire, because just down the road, a few of the inmates from a mental asylum prison have escaped, and they are on a murderous rampage. Now, this little novella pulls no punches. Everyone is a target. No one is safe. The kills are gruesome and bloody, and I absolutely loved it. This is perfect reading for Halloween. I couldn't put it down. The shocks, just the shock factor alone just had me hooked, and I absolutely loved it. It's a really short one, and it's quick and punchy, and yeah, brilliant story. Now, I did have a really big disappointment in September with my reading. I brought Bateater, which, again, one of these books I've heard so many good reviews about. People absolutely rave about this one. But for me, it just didn't quite work. So in this story, we follow a woman who watched her sister get pushed in front of a train. Now, this happens at the height of COVID, when everybody is being very racist to Chinese people, and her sister falls prey to a racial attack. I thought I was really going to enjoy this. I, again, had heard so much about it. I heard great things. It was presented as a kind of ghosty story and a thriller as well. For me, it just felt like it was trying to be way too many things all at once, and it just didn't quite work. So the female main character becomes a crime scene cleaner, and so we get the gruesome and the bloody kind of side of things from her doing that. And then she kind of comes across a kind of mystery that she needs to kind of work out. And then there is the ghosty story side to it. And it just didn't work for me. It, like I said, was trying to be so many different things, and it didn't work. I feel like if it had been a ghost story or trying to solve this mystery, it would have worked fine. But because it was trying to do these things at the same time, it just didn't work. The ghost parts of the story as well, just, I understand it's the culture, that cultural story. But again, for me, it just didn't add anything substantial to the story. It just didn't. And I was so disappointed, because there have been so many people, so many vloggers that I watch that I look up to, and they've loved it. And I read it and I was like, oh, it's another one of those things that it just didn't work for me. I just didn't enjoy it. So October was a really good reading month for me, and I want to just chat about a couple of books that I absolutely loved. So the first one was an ARC audiobook called When We Talk to the Dead. Now, this follows a young woman who has some partial memory loss of her childhood. Not much is known. All she can remember is that she used to live on an island, and she decides that she's going to go out to this island and try and figure out what happens. On the island, her and her friends, because her friends go with her, start to sense that there is something on this island that is a bit weird, and then people start to go missing. And this one was so twisty. I kind of saw the twist coming, but it was done so well, and I actually really enjoyed it. I also liked how it kind of gave off a bit like Midsummer vibes, where they go off, they kind of have fun, it's very like light-hearted, they start to like make a movie on the island, and yeah, then things start to go a bit dark and spooky and wrong, and the twist is quite heartbreaking and also really dark as well. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I may actually have to listen to it again because it was really, really good. And the kills are quite graphic, so just a little trigger warning for you there as well, but definitely would recommend. Another really good ARC book that I read in October was The Silent Forest by A.E. Ford. Now, she got in touch with me on TikTok over at the Book Girls Corner and sent me through the ARC copy of this book. This book follows a group of friends who go out into these woods, and it's meant to be like a fun little digital detox weekend where they just go on a trek. And they all are, you know, happy friends, and they come back and it's done. However, they get into this forest and things are not looking good. They start to find objects, items from missing hikers, and it starts to freak them out. And this one really upped the tension. I genuinely, especially when they were camping at night, freaked me out. I was just like, no, freaky. And it's very psychologically twisty. And the end, just when you think that they've got out and they're okay, oh, no, just... it doesn't end in a good way for anybody. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this one though. It was a fun, quick read and really, really high tense, high horror. And yeah, it was definitely one of the best ones I read. Another book that I read and absolutely loved in October was Slewfoot by Brom. Now, in this story, we follow Abatha, a young woman who's basically sold off to colonists and gets sent out to America to become a wife to one of them. Now, things start to go really wrong for them really quite quickly. She is failing to get pregnant and word starts to spread as to why, and that little old word starts getting thrown around, witch. Now, things go really wrong when her husband actually dies and she struggles to maintain the upkeep of her homestead. And to make matters worse, her husband's brother gets involved and says basically that the house that her and her husband lived in is his and he wants it back. So Abatha makes a deal that if she can pay off the rest of the money that he lent them to buy the house, she will own it and he will have nothing to do with her ever again. And the brother makes it oh so difficult. And then a figure steps out of the woods, and I won't say too much more. This story is full of folklore and witchcraft and weirdness, and I absolutely loved it. I love a witchy story, and this just... it was so good because for me it just blurred the lines between a fantasy story and a historical novel, and I absolutely loved it. Now, fair warning, in this story there is a witch trial and the punishment and the torture is quite graphic. Now, I was okay with this because I've read quite a few stories like this, but I do feel like it may be a trigger for some people. It does add to the story. It is needed, and the results and the ripple effect that this trial has is amazing. The ending was insane and I loved it so much. I am desperate for a physical copy of this because I didn't actually realise, but Brom does artwork for his books, and in the books there are pages of character artwork, so I am desperate for a physical copy of this to add to my shelves because this story was just amazing. So, and I'm currently, well, Krampus is currently on my TBR for winter, also by Brom, so I'm really looking forward to the kind of twist that he's put on that story as well. Okay, so the last book that I'm going to chat to you about that I read and loved in October is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. In this book, we follow a young woman who has just been told her mum has died in the house that her and her sisters grew up in. Now, this house is notoriously known for being haunted or possessed. So she goes to the house, and in the house she finds a copy of her mum's book. Now, her mum wrote a book about the possession of this house and all the hauntings and the creepy stuff that went on inside the house while the girls were children. And her mother has annotated parts of the book, but we soon come to realise that the mum isn't a reliable narrator to the story. This book is so creepy and I really, really enjoyed it. I loved how it kind of makes you question how things come across, because you have the kids' side who are now young women and have been kind of traumatized by the way their mum reacted to the house and brought them up in the house and things that happened in the house. And you have what the mum writes in this book and then the notes that go alongside it. And yeah, it's brilliant. It works so well. The only thing that I would say about this book, it's why I didn't give it more stars when I gave it a rating. I think I gave it like a 4 or 4.5 stars. The ending wasn't quite how I thought it would be. I wanted a bit more. But yeah, it was, I've still thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really good and I really do recommend it. So the hype was definitely worth it with this one, thankfully. Now, as good as October was for my reading, I actually read way more books in November. They were all shorter, so that's probably why. But the one that I want to chat to you about is Never Lie by Freida McFadden. So this sees a couple go into a house to view it. It's for sale, and they get there and the estate agent is nowhere to be seen. And then a blizzard comes and they actually get snowed into this house. And the other thing about this house is that it's fully furnished and the last occupant's clothes and all of her personal items are still in the house. So obviously when you get stuck in someone's house in a blizzard, you have to go snooping. And snoop they do, and they find a bunch of tapes. And these tapes are recordings of therapy sessions. And this is where things start to get juicy. And it's soon revealed that the owner of the house actually disappeared a few years ago. So we start to try and unravel that. And there is another side to the story that I'm not going to give away because I think it would be a big spoiler. But yeah, in typical Freida fashion, she led me down one path and then pulled the rug from underneath me at the last minute and we went off in the distance that way. And yeah, this one, I really enjoyed this one. Just not only was it tense because they were snowed into this house, it was tense because they realised they were staying in a person's house that had disappeared under weird circumstances. And then they find these tapes. And there's also this kind of tension between the couple as well. And everything is just very tense, but it works and it's a good, sharp, snappy story, and yeah, loved it. After that, I read an ARC book called The Monster We Made by Shade Owens, and this read so like a Freida McFadden book. It was unreal because I was led down this way and then there was another story thread, but it all came together and I absolutely loved it. Now this is kind of a psychological thriller and a thriller at the same time, and it's so original and so good. And at the end I was like, oh, I hope we get another one because the ending was just so juicy. And yeah, absolutely loved it. Again, I'm not going to give too much away in case people want to go and find these books. I will list them in the description as well. But I thoroughly enjoyed this one. And it honestly, it read so much like a Freida McFadden. At one point I was like, are we sure this isn't a Freida book I'm reading? It was so well written, so tense, so gruesome at points. And you really question who you can trust in these books as well. And yeah, I loved it. So in November, I actually had 2 books that I read that I was really disappointed in. Both of these books had been on my TBR for a while, and I'd heard a lot of good reviews about them. The first one was The Salt Grows Heavy. I did talk about this one, I think it was in the first vlog that I did, and it just completely confused me. I felt like I'd been dropped into the middle of a story and was just like, go. It just didn't work for me. If you want like a better review, go and watch the first vlog. It was more succinct. And the second big disappointment for me was The Lamb by Lucy Rose. I thought I was going to love this. The premise was absolutely amazing. For those of you who don't know, this is a book about a child that we follow, and her mother live off-grid out in the woods. Her mother takes in strays, people whose car has broken down on the road or who just need a place to stay for the night. And she gets them comfy, cozy, gets them all comfortable and relaxed. And she kills them and then she eats them. And the first sentence in this book hooked me in. I think it's something like, when I was 4 years old, I plucked some fingers out of a shower, something like that. It doesn't read like that, but it's kind of the premise. And yeah, I thought it was going to be really, really good, and it just never got going for me. I thought the idea was great, and then it just did not go where I thought it was going to go. There were parts of the story that were in there that were focused on quite heavily, and then it just didn't go anywhere, and it didn't add to the story at all. I also felt like the story was going to go a totally different way, and in the end it was actually really sad, and I really felt sorry for the main character. And the end was just, I don't really know how to explain it without giving things away. It was just not what I thought it was going to be, and it just left me wanting for more. After all the hype that I'd read of it, after the blurb and how hyped up it was, I just wanted more, and I feel like maybe I ruined it for myself a little bit by going in with too high expectations, but yeah, it didn't quite hit home for me. And we're finally in December. So I started this month off strong with the art copy of A Kingdom of Light and Air by J.F. Johns, book 3 in the Kingdom of Gods series. Really good. I'm not going to go too much into it again because of the other vlogs, but yeah, definitely go check the series out. Next up, I read Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. Again, I'm not going to go too much into this because it was reviewed in the other vlog, but really enjoyed this one. Super tense, trust no one. It was amazing. And the last book I'm going to talk to you about for this month, this year, is Victorian Psycho. Now, I listened to this and it's absolutely amazing. I did a full review of it in my last vlog, so go check that out. But I definitely recommend this one. It's absolutely nuts and it's shocking and it's gruesome, but I absolutely loved it. So that's it. That is the reading wrap up for 2025. 86 books. I can't quite believe it. But oh my gosh, what a year. What a year for reading. And what a year for me personally. At the beginning of this year, the book Girls Corner wasn't a thing. I had no plans on doing any of this. And I feel like I've really stepped outside my comfort zone, trying something new, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm absolutely loving it. Thank you to everybody who has watched any of my vlogs and liked any of my vlogs and subscribed. I really appreciate it. I absolutely love books, and to do this is just a passion of mine. So sharing books and recommendations and little bookish life bits, I can't wait to do that more often in 2026. And yeah, who knows what this year will bring. So I have got a little teaser for next year. Recently, me and my husband have been doing some work around the house, and I jokingly said that I wanted a book corner of my own, a little bookish space for myself, and he agreed. So I'm currently in the process of getting a book corner. I'm so excited about this. I've got a vision. I know what I want it to look like. And yeah, I'm hoping I can take you with us on this journey of creating it as much as I can. And hopefully it will either be parts of future vlogs or it will be a vlog of its own. I haven't decided yet. But yeah, just a little something for 2026 that I've got planned so far. I really hope that we can go on more shopping trips and more trips in general, and I'll take you with us. And yeah, I can't wait to see where we go next year, what happens, and where we can take this channel. And yeah, I can't wait to see if we can make new friends, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So it's going to be good. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up there for now. Again, thank you so much to everybody who has watched any of my videos, liked any of my videos, or just taken a second to look at the Instagram page, like our post over there. Thank you so much, because it really is a passion of mine and Laura's as well. She does the Instagram page with me as well. And yeah, I hope you all have a lovely end to the year, doing whatever you're doing, celebrating however you want to celebrate, and I will see you in 2026.